Hey everybody, here's Mike here at Crash Bushcraft. Got Alan Hobbs there with Freedom Bushcraft. How's everybody doing tonight?
Hey y'all, hope everybody had a great Memorial Day weekend.
I don't know if we got anybody in there quite yet or not.
I
We
gotta
have
go
one
find it on
viewer.
your channel.
Do what?
I gotta go find it on your channel so I can watch comments.
Hey, you should be able to see it in group chat.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Where on the video?
Mm-hmm. I guess, shouldn't it?
No, group chat is just us. It's whoever's in the room.
Oh, you're right. Well, go over there and click on that for me because I keep forgetting that one.
Yeah.
If y'all hold on just a second while I open mine up too, I forgot all about it.
We got a lot to talk about tonight, folks. And Mike, I'm echoing like crazy.
Then we may have to double down. Hold on just a second, okay?
Yeah.
Talk to them while I fix this.
But we got a lot to talk to y'all about tonight. Some of the things that we was raised up learning has changed due to the earth movements, and Mike will go over all that with y'all. Mike's the smart one out of the two of us. But I had something else I was going to say too. I'm echoing and it's driving me crazy. I went fishing today. Caught a big old catfish. If you're on my Facebook, you've probably seen it. If I was camping, I would have ate it, which I wanted to eat it anyways, but I stayed up all night working in my shop and then decided to go fishing this morning. And by the time I caught that catfish, it was about 11 o'clock, and I was just ready to go to bed. Didn't feel like cleaning it or nothing. So I threw the big old boy back.
Then he had steak.
Yeah, had steak tonight. Folks, I'm planning my next camping trip this week sometime. I'm not sure when, but if all goes well, I'll get back out there and try out some of my new equipment. Go ahead, Mike. What you was going to say?
I don't remember now.
You're as bad as I am.
I'm worse than you. What do you think I hang out with you? Issue with my Google. It's no longer will allow me to open up more than one window.
I know something I want to talk about while you're getting ready.
Do that.
Folks, I want to talk about rabid wild animals, rabies, animals with rabies, and what to look for. And I got two examples that I've experienced that I can tell you of what to watch out for. And one just happened the other day, and I was on the phone with Mike, as a matter of fact, when it happened. I don't know what time it was. I don't remember. I think it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, maybe somewhere around there. But a raccoon went walking through my yard in broad daylight while the sun was up high, and it climbed. There's an oak tree at the end of my driveway down there, and the raccoon climbed up about 3 foot, turned around, looked at us, and climbed back down. Then went across the street and went onto my neighbor's porch and was walking around on my neighbor's porch. 99% of the time, and that's not a proven fact, that's just me guessing, but 99% of the time that raccoon got rabies, because for one, you're not going to see a raccoon all out in the daytime too often. Of course, yeah, it could happen. You could see a raccoon in the daytime that don't have rabies, but it's highly unlikely. And your best bet, if you see it, is either just shoot it or stay the heck away from it. I say shoot it. If you're in an area where you can shoot it, put it out of its misery. But that's one thing, and there's a lot more to worry about than just seeing the raccoon with rabies. If you got animals that are outside, cats, dogs, and that raccoon ends up getting in a fight with them, then he's probably going to transfer rabies to whatever. you know, so it's something very serious and very that you need to be watching out for. A second example was when I used to be ghost hunting. Me and this lady was ghost hunting in the cemetery way out in the middle of nowhere, and a fox came out from behind a tombstone, and it kept staying real close to us. Which, for one, I mean, that should raise red flags there because a fox ain't gonna hang around a human, you know, unless he was raised from a human. But the lady I was with, she was like, "Oh, look, it's so cute. I bet that's somebody's pet." And I said, "That ain't nobody's pet, girl." I said, "That fox got rabies." And she's like, "No, it don't." Well, the fox went over to the edge of the woods and stood there and stared at us. And then it let out this loud yell that sounded like freaking 100 demons screaming at you or something. And the girl, you should have seen the girl. She's hugging all over me. "Oh my God, what's wrong with that fox?" I said, "I told you it's got rabies." And, but that's just something to, if an animal is acting out of its normal habits, then it's something to worry about rabies wise. Foxes are shy of humans and they'll run as soon as they see you, and they try not to be seen. Period. So you're not going to have a fox come walk up to you and hang around you like your buddies and stuff without having rabies. Same for raccoons, and I imagine same for any type of animal that's habits are to stay away from humans and run from humans. If you see them just out of the ordinary, it's something to be careful of. You know, you don't want to go like if I would have went out there playing with that raccoon and got bit, you know, that would have been all kind of trouble. So you don't want to go playing with them or messing with them. I'd just shoot them. If you got a gun, shoot them. Put them out of their misery. That's all I got to say on that, Mike.
All right. That's all I got. Let me get over here and open me back up. We got a ton of things.
See,
so it cleared out the echoing, right?
Yeah, I'm good now.
So
and hello to Oli Prepper, Tim, 420 Forest, Elmore Canoe and Bushcrafting, Stan Oates. Did I miss anybody? Willie Bailey. And I think that's everybody. How y'all doing? Glad y'all are here with us tonight. Mike's got some stuff to talk about that'll probably blow your mind. Stuff that we hadn't thought about over the years. And
not most of it. It shouldn't blow your mind. I think a lot of the viewers are probably going to be more aware of it. One of the things that I wanted to start out with is basically water purification. In the last 20 years, almost all of us have came up to the we've all tested water, or the majority of us that have been out in the woods and things of that nature for quite some time. We've all drank out of a river. We've all drank just straight from doing some of the digging the hole beside the river and letting the water seep up, filter through the sand, this and that. The problem with it is now is those days are pretty much dead and gone. One of the safest ways to do it without anything is water boiling it, just boiling it in itself. One of the researches that I've done, it showed that only about 40 or 60% of the actual bacteria and all the little nasty germs and things like that will actually go away through the Earth's filtering system, because the Earth in itself has been contaminated from the trees sucking down the contaminations, dropping them into the root systems. It's just, it was amazing to sit and watch or actually listen to all of it. But with that being said, pretty much, you know, boil your water. You know, I mean, that's one of the reasons that whenever you have a huge flood or something like that in the area that you live in, they always come out and they tell you, boil your water. Even boil the drinking water that comes straight out of your faucet, because all of that stuff has just flown into it. So, you know, even though it's being filtered right back in to the ground and then back to wherever it's going. So that's pretty much one of the things. I see that Stan said something other about springs. In this research there, they've done a couple of springs that actually showed that the water in itself still contained bacteria and the microorganisms. Not as many, but it only took one to actually make them sick. I drink from springs. I still probably will in a sense. But what most of this is, the reason that I wanted to touch the whole subject on it was not as much as for me, but my son. He's 6. 20 years from now, those same springs that we're talking about today are probably going to be not disinfected. They're going to be so polluted and corroded with all kinds of stuff. It's better that I go ahead and start teaching him some of the ways, and he just learned from that no matter what, boil my water. There's all kinds of stuff that kind of came with it. But with that, it says what I'd read down was after the research primitive ways, boiling seems to be the best one, that without having, like if you were just out stranded and you didn't have a water purification, I'd recommend getting a live straw, getting some type of it. Even the what is those, well, the iodine and stuff tablets and stuff, it showed that it was actually pretty good. I wrote down all these notes and stuff with it. All right, I can go over to the other side up now because I know I went over that whole part. When getting your water, try to dunk your water. One of the things that, by reading into it, if this is the water that's flowing, we see a lot of people that try to do this and skim the top of it to fill up their water bottle. If this is the water level, you're much better than dunking it down here to get that water, because most of the stuff, the sediments and all that are light, they have floated to the top. We don't really see them that much, but when they are, you're just sucking the majority of that down in it. So I kind of did that little test, and I've got a video coming up where I took a clear bottle and went to one of the streams over in Eton, or not Eton, but Enoda, and these are springs that are right straight out of the mountains, and they have signs all over there, and that's what kind of brought me to it. But with it, once I just took that water and run it through where the water was flowing over the bar, as the rocks and stuff, as fast as it could, right at the end of it, I went ahead and just dunked it in there. When I flipped it up and let it settle, there was about 1/4 of an inch of dirt and all kinds of stuff that had settled in the bottom. But the rest of that water was just as clear as it could be. I mean, clearer than what I would get out of my tap. Some of the other things that, let me clear this here.
Something while you're on the water subject, not knowing what's there. Of course, we all know that, but if you're anything like me and you're like on my survival trip where y'all saw me do the survival challenge and I ended up drinking out of the river several times, of course, you don't know what's in that water other than bacteria and stuff. You could walk right upstream a little ways. There may be a dead, disintegrated deer laying in the water, possum, whatever. But something that really opened my eyes to that, which I already knew that, but it just don't really register when you want it to. But after I got home and people were commenting on my survival challenge, there's one guy who lives right here in North Carolina, and we have hog farms all up and down these rivers. And that guy told me that all of that hog stuff washes right out into the river that I drank out of. And at first I didn't want to believe it, but I got to thinking, all these hog farms sit right on this daggone river. And if they don't sit on the river, they got something leading to the river, a trench or whatever. And so, you just never know. So before you get out there and do like my stupid self did and go, the heck with it, I'm just going to drink this. Think about what might be in that water, And I was lucky. I didn't get sick at all. I didn't even get diarrhea, and I drank out of that river a lot. But just thinking, after that guy told me all them hog farm stuff washes in there, that almost made me sick just thinking about it. Go ahead, Mike.
It's just, I guess what I kind of touched on with you just a few minutes ago before the show started was, I'm as guilty as anyone. 20, 30, 40 years ago, things were totally different. Heck, if anybody's over 40, they know they used to ride their bicycles to town 5 miles away. You've seen 1 or 2 cars. Those are things that's just changed. But with all of the chemicals that are being dumped into the waters, with all of the acid rains that we have that are coming from way over that are flowing through, and all these other things, you got jets that are flying through, you got cars polluting it. All of this stuff has changed dramatically. So when I started reading books like some of these, Living with Indians or Living How Indians, and then I started looking at the dates of when they were published, that's what blew me away. Is a lot of times we still rehash some of the stuff from some of the older books, but I think it's because inside of us, it's just that we still want to go back, theory or feeling, we want to go back to the way it used to be, and we remember drinking that water. It won't hurt you, or this won't do it, or we can filter it through this, or we can do this and that. And still any type of filtration is going to be better than none. But I think that's where a lot of it goes. And one of the videos that I'd watched just the other day, it was about 13 or 14 minutes, and the gentleman really just kind of lit a fire under what I was thinking with it, because a lot of our frontier days, frontier things of that some of us wanted to go back to, or even just with Nesmith and some of those things, these guys were 100 years ago, 90 years ago, 80 years ago. Some of them are 150 years ago. We didn't have these problems that we have now. So we still we read some of the books and see what they did, and we rush out and we do it. And that's what I'm guilty of. I personally have done it. Like, oh man, it would be so cool to do that. I'm going to go do it. And I get out there, and I've been fortunate and lucky. I have, knock on wood, I've never had any of the bad water that I know of, not unless it's just fat water, and I've got plenty of it. But I guess with that, go ahead.
Before you move on, Stan and Tim just made a really good point. Stan says, rule of thumb, if you're actually dying of dehydration and don't have any way of boiling or filtering and you need water, drink the fastest flowing water you can find. That's a really good point. And it also falls back to, too, if you are about to die from dehydration, don't worry about the filtering. I mean, if you're like in a matter of minutes or hours away from dying and you can't find no other way to filter some water, drink it, because more than likely it ain't going to kill you. It's just going to make you sick, dehydration or whatever. And yeah, I know all that stuff can kill you. But if you're already about to die anyways because of dehydration, what do you got to lose? Go on and drink yourself full,
I guess in a sense it would be to that point, but what is diarrhea? What is vomiting?
It's dehydrating.
And even worse.
Yeah.
So you're at that point. Which one? I mean, are you really dying? Has it been 5 days? Because everybody says a rule of thumb, 3 days, three this, 3 that. Some people can go 4, 5, 6 days. Some people can go 2 days. Some people can only go maybe a day and a half. But I mean, I get that. I mean, I think that the fastest flowing water to me will have the least amount of it.
Yeah.
Go upstream, go downstream, because swirls happen and it gets caught and gets brought right back up.
Yeah.
We don't see what's under the current that's coming up and bringing it back to you, and that upstream part of it, where it's flowing from, would be a good idea. So, I mean, I guess it's weigh your options when you're in that situation.
Yeah, I say, like you said, weigh your options. But if you're dying, I say drink away. I will. If I'm dying and I ain't got much of a other choice, I'm dying anyway. So this will either save me or help kill me, one or the other.
I guess where the things have kind of put more of a emphasis for me is when I do a video or something, I start looking and thinking more about the kids that watch videos.
Yeah.
And they only know 20% of what you just say, and they don't hear all of it. So I guess I could be a little more too cautious in that sense, because I know a lot of children are just starting out, and giving them the worst scenario to me would give them that opportunity to only heard 20% and say the fastest water, suck it up and let's go. And then all of a sudden now they're laying over there. But most of them, hopefully, they don't get in that predicament or that situation.
True.
But I mean, and,
what Tim was saying too, which was another really good point, drinking water from your area is not nearly as bad for you and drinking water from other places, because your body builds immunity to the bacteria in your area. That's why you don't get sick. That makes a lot of sense, even though I've never heard of it before, or that I know of, but that makes a lot of sense. So that's probably a good point. And then he also says too, on what we was just now saying, if you're dying and you drink water and it's going to give you diarrhea or whatever, Tim said, yeah, but it will take you 3 days to get sick from the water as a general rule.
Not necessarily. A general rule, it says that it can be, but it can happen as least as minutes as 10 minutes. That was what that little scientific thing where it showed it can happen as in little as 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Once it hits because it absorbs through, and if you're already dehydrated, your body now is thirsting for everything, and it speeds up the process like 100%, where it normally wouldn't. So, I mean, it's got its ups and downs. I mean, like we've all said in the beginning of this, me and Alan are no experts on this. We're just trying to dig as much information up as we can and kind of pass it on. But I was amazed at all of the stuff that, and then again, you can only believe about half of what you read anyway. So
Yeah.
halfway there, I'm okay.
Yeah, that like on my survival trip when I did that survival challenge, I had one guy that said, I believe his name was Clint Micklin or whatever, when he had made a comment in here on why should he ask me any questions when I failed on my survival trip? Well, failing would have meant that I didn't make it back. So there's no way I failed. The goal is to survive, and you do whatever you got to do, you know. So if you make it home, then you're a winner.
I think I would almost say every one of us that are, that we've done this, we have all taken and drunk water, and taken drinks of water that we weren't 100% certain of. I was just right where you bet. I've done it before. Be thirsting, the body says, "Come on, man, I'll do anything. Just give me a drink of water." And you do it, and then all of a sudden you feel great. I think it's going to be up to your judgment with it, but if you've never done that type of thing, then you have a smaller amount of the immune system we're speaking of to be able to get into that, to be able to take that chance with it. Even though there's a mill called Mount Vernon, which is Regal Textile, and it's out of the Chattooga River, which is about 2 miles from where I live at. Kid you not, there's fish in there that people catch and put in a newspaper all the time and have 3 and 4 eyes. Our water system generally comes from that same one, but they do all their tests, the state does, and comes back and says that it's some of the cleanest, purest drinking water there is.
Huh.
Now, are they lying to me? If next week you see, man, I got 5 eyes, you'll know what happened.
Maybe that just means it's a very healthy water. It gives you an extra eye.
That could be it. I'm gonna go drink some tonight. But
go ahead.
Well, that was pretty much. In conclusion, basically what I came up with it. Just to be on the safe side, a container. Everybody, if you're going to be out in the woods, take a metal container. I don't care if it's one of those Stanley cups, if it's just a Coke can or whatever, just take a cup with you. And then if you've got some other type of water purification, they're fairly cheap. If you don't, these things are everywhere. You can get a metal cup at Walmart, what are they, $1.09, $1.10, something like that.
Yeah, and I'm a firm believer on the bowling thing. Y'all see, every time I camp at the river, I save weight by not bringing a lot of water because I know I'm going to get my water out the river and boil it. Then I'm a firm believer that there ain't no safer way than boiling it. So, and there ain't no reason you can't boil it. Unless you're in a situation where you have no possible way to start a fire, which is why it's good to learn bow drill and a hand drill and everything else. So you have all different ways. If one fails, you can try the next. What are you laughing at?
No disclaimer. I finally got to flip over to see some of the comments and stuff. I was relying on you to read them to me, but and he said exactly. I was stating a rule of thumb: if there is no alternative, boil when possible. Disclaimer. I guess that was one of the things that I've been having. I kind of watch, and what's made me well aware of this is my son, being 6, he is starting YouTube crazy. From video games to watching some of the younger guys that are doing these YouTube videos to just a tremendous amount of stuff. He's learned how to read now. He's learned how to type. He learned how to hit the little thing and speak what he wants to see. And it really made me aware of, he's 6. How many other kids are out there kind of doing it? So I'd made some videos with him, making fire and stuff. And then I thought to myself, maybe this is not one of the better things for me to actually put out there, because what if another 6-year-old is watching, sees his dad's got it, grabs it, goes outside, burns the home down, because he's seen Caden doing it. So I'm kind of in a situation with it to where I'm looking out for other people, not just, myself. he and I can still learn these things. He's well aware of the dangers of it. If you watch any of the videos, when he sees the fires coming, you can hear him fire. He's done scooted. But I guess that could be a dilemma for me, where I'm kind of floating back and forth, trying to be more cautious about what I actually put out, as opposed to just what I know I can do or what I've done, and showing different ways for adults, knowing now that it's not just adults that are watching it. There's children that kind of being out there, and which I even thought about going to the point to putting a 14 or 15-year-old limit to be able to view it if they have an account. But half of them don't. Like Caden, he just got his account. He didn't even have one before. He just went in. So I don't know if there's a way of limiting who can watch and who can't.
Yeah, there is a way of limiting. I mean, you can put that age restriction on.
But that's the thing, is if they go in, like right now, I'm logged into YouTube, not signed in, and I'm watching it through that. I just clicked onto another one.
Oh. Well, I think when you put the age restriction on, though, if somebody goes to watch it who's underage or even whatever age they are, I think it asks you to do something to prove your age.
It may be. I'm going to check into it a little bit more, because Caden really enjoys doing it. I think he's showing his little friends and stuff.
Hey, Knuckleback 33, welcome.
I mean, we've kind of cleared through that. One of the other things was navigation. Alan hates that word with a passion, and we know he does. There's a few things that most people, that they know where the North Star is majority of the time, but a lot of times folks don't actually know which one is the North Star, but they can find the Big Dipper, or the Little Dipper, or they can find Orion's Belt, this and that, which to me, if you're looking for anything, look for the North Star first and start from there. But it'll give you in a scenario to where if you're out there in it, my camera keeps kicking off or something. There it is. Or it kicks off on me. I don't know if y'all can see it or not. But an easy way of finding it, and I kind of drew a diagram. Tell me if y'all can see that, or if you see it well.
I see it good.
Okay. This being the Big Dipper in itself, if you come off of it as if you were dipping it out, if you just connect these 2 points and go straight up, there's your North Star. So if you're out there looking for true north, in a sense, that'll give you that area, because they say there's another one that pops up here that burns very bright, brighter than most of the other ones, but not as this one does. And they say now that sometimes this one here is the one that people are thinking is the North Star, which if you point from here over, you're looking at quite a bit of degrees that you can be walking in the wrong direction. Rule of thumb too is, since I like that one, is don't walk around at night unless you just have to, but there's other things that I'm going to be doing for being able to navigate. And I know it's being done quite often with a lot of folks, on it, but I've kind of found some cool ways that I didn't even know of, and some of the ways that I do. But with a compass and stuff, one of the things that I found out that a lot of people don't even realize is a compass, holding one up, I have one over there, but holding one this way doesn't give you an accurate reading. It needs to be laid on a flat surface at all possible. And if not, then it needs to be laid flat in your hand in this direction here. Try not to keep it around a metal can, an axe, or if you're sitting on your stump out there or whatever, and you got your knife laid down or your axe and stuff, it can throw it off just a smidgen. It being that way, most people don't realize that most compasses are made out of plastics. And there's a reason. It's not because it's cheaper to make it out of that, because if the case was metal and stuff. And I do believe I've heard that there is one that is some type of a metal. I don't know what it was. But the only ones I've ever seen were porcelain, plastic, and things like that. But by doing that, you just don't want to use it around a metal object. And then once you learn how to use the compass, and if you get you a book on orienteering, and if you have children, it's super fun. you can teach them how to read it and learn how to read the compass and know where you're going just by putting things around in your yard and having them find it by not telling them other than degrees and directions with it.
Let me scroll back up here before we get too far off of the water subject. Willie Bailey made a point here, and I didn't know this actually. Boiling will not get chemicals out. So what's a good way to do that other than filtering? That's up to you, Mike, because I had no idea that boiling didn't get out chemicals.
One of the things that was inside of that there is the majority of the chemicals disperse, is what it says. They disperse out of it to the point to where it wouldn't be as bad, because the fumes that are in the water, depending on if it's an oil. If it's an oil base, then they said no, then you're pretty much screwed. You need to figure something else out. And they even said with water purification tablets, oil-based stuff don't filter out all the way with it. So depending on which type of oil that it is, depends on what you're actually going to get sick from. Kerosene, well, I won't even say it if somebody does watch it, but there's certain things that won't kill you, and there's certain things that can kill you. But other than just that little brief part of it that I read, the only one that they gave out for it for the purest form was actually boiling water. And they didn't, they did mention that there were types of chemicals and things that could be in the water, and that's why they said steer clear of it, of anything that that may have it. But I tell you what I can do is I can actually spend some time and go look up and see if there is something else before I clear out anything with it. I won't be able to do it tonight with it, but
Tim will probably have that up for you in a minute.
All right, Tim, you're on that. Get it and find it. But one of the other things about a compass and stuff is a lot of people don't use a compass 99% of the time, or probably 70% of the time. If I'm in an area that I'm very familiar with and I know where I'm at, if I'm not, I generally set where my truck is at and know that that's the direction I need to come back in, or vehicle, or wherever I started from. But a lot of people will just take their compass in itself and just grab it, and they just throw it in there waiting for the last point. If that thing is sitting in your bag for a year and it's been sitting right beside your axe, chances are it's probably not very accurate anymore. It'll probably get you into a closer direction than if you didn't have it, but probably no better than just checking the stars or the sun in itself. But I've got a little video with it. The other thing was I see how many people have one of these. It's a bandana, because it's probably one of the most common things that we hear about. Bandana will fix it all and it'll do everything. So what I'm going to do with this bandana is I have a bucket of water here, and it's something that most people don't even think about before they do it, is we're just going to soak this thing down in there for a little bit and just let it hang out and just kind of keep an eye on it. And we'll finish talking. And some of you may already know this, but it'll help you when it comes to the first aid part to know what to do before you go to messing around with it. Some of everybody has a 5 C's. They have a 5 things you must have, 5 these, 5 that. So I did me a 5. And it's 5 things that I think that we should know before we even go buy anything. Before you go taking off on this adventure. 1, know how to orient. Know where you're going. Know how to check with the stars. Know how to use a compass. If you don't have one, get one of them stuff. But before you just take off in your big adventure that you're going to go out on, learn those. Find out where your true north is. Learn the difference between it and magnetic. Learn all the little things that are with it. If you're just in your backyard, kind of like you do, you know from where you're at, you know where you're going to be at when you get home. You're within walking distance. A half a day you're at home, or not even an hour and a half you're at home. So it's okay on that area there if you know your directions and where you're at from one road to the next to this and that, and you're in the middle of the quadrant or whatever. But dressing for the climate that you're in, and also know what the climate is and the weather that's in that area. Because where I'm at, the fall can be 75 degrees at nighttime, and that night it'll go down to 15 degrees. And getting lost with a pair of shorts on is not any fun, I'm pretty sure, at 3:30 in the morning. And so that's kind of one of the things that before we go and buy all of this gear that's all around you and stuff that we see so many people that are purchasing and buying and getting out there and getting with, these are some of the things that I think that we should kind of work on and know what we need, you know, before we take off and do these purchases.
And might want to even do a little over preparing for the weather, because for the last few years the weather's been unpredictable.
Well, I mean, the way the earth has tilted, the way it's shifted, someone was speaking of it there. You know, my season here, people kid me about my garden all the time, especially if they're over 60. Man, you're planting that stuff way too early. I get 2 crops most of the time because it's not 1960 anymore. You know, we've got so much sun. I mean, there's times in February, there's times in December here, we're in the 80s. There's also 2 days later, we're -5.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, and that my theory with the garden part of it is, I got $8 in most of my seeds, maybe $10. If it grows, whoopee. If it don't, I got another 45 minutes to 2 hours of planting seeds again, and I still got another crop. But one of the things that my wife helped me out with this here, and she said, how many people that do this stuff know CPR, that actually know it? Not seen it on television. I've never even performed it on a fake dummy. How many people actually know CPR? That's, I mean, some of you that know it and, you know, are trained at it, been certified, or even if you hadn't and you've done it before and you've survived it, or, you know, you've made it happen for somebody else. That's one of the things she said, just throw that in there just for, and she don't even like YouTube, so she did say it. But
I don't know.
My first aid kit consisted of this thing here, and 99% of the time, if I'm going to be taking Caden out, that's what it's in. Sure, it's overkill until I need it. That's the thing. It's not overkill if you don't need it. And I'm not going to break this thing down and tell you what all's in it, but I can tell you there's stuff in there that most people can't even obtain. But shelter building, not throwing a tarp up, knowing some of those shelters that you might need, whether, you know, is it going to be 85 degrees at night with a slight chance of rain? You don't need, you know, this big extravagant thing. You just need something that's a basic shelter, lean-to, whatever, you know, debris, whatever you've got. I even recommend taking and spending 4 or 5 hours one night in your backyard in the fall, covered up in nothing but leaves. Just see how much warmth it really is. I mean, there's a lady that 4 years ago, she was 60-ish, late 60s, got lost. She went for a walk down here across the mountain over here. She just went for a walk through the woods that she's been in many a time, but she fell and broke her leg. She covered herself up that night with 32-degree weather with nothing but leaves, and they found her the next day alive. Of course, why would she have froze to death probably at 32? As old as she was, the thin as the blood was, it's a good possibility. But just those little life-saving things that you need to kind of know about, and how to build a fire. I mean, whether you got a bic in your pocket, whether you use flint and steel, whether you use a bow drill, whether you use a big old ball of gas, you know, I don't care. Whatever it is, know how to sustain that fire.
And on that, Kip, there's so many people that don't have a clue, and that amazes me, because we were raised, people like me and Mike and probably all of y'all that's in the room, we were raised up doing that stuff, you know, raised up building fires, campfires. In our backyard, it was a campfire every freaking weekend, you know, and roasting marshmallows and stuff. So we learned that stuff at a young age. But when I was doing all the reenactment at Harmony Hall, there was a crew that come to camp out at Harmony Hall to reenact, and they're supposed to be reenacting for like 20 years, a real well-known popular crew. They came over to my campsite and asked me for kerosene. I said, no, I don't have any. Why? What do you need it for? They said, we're trying to get a fire going. I was like, oh my God. These people have been reenacting for 20 years and can't get a fire going without kerosene. And they were camped out right there in the woods, all kinds of broken limb. So I'm going to tell you where I stand on a fire. It's a very simple, very, very simple technique. You get the smallest little twigs you can find, and they will even light if they're wet if you put a flame under them, like these little toothpick twigs, and work your way up. 10
That's the
little
key.
10 little toothpick ones, 10 little pinky ones, 10 thumb ones, and you got it going on. You're ready to go. It amazed me. These were grown men that could not start a fire without kerosene.
When we were camping, I'm not sure where they were from, but it's somewhere over in the Middle East, I'm sure. They were kind of Arabic. They was 2 guys and 2 girls, and they were over there at the camp thing that we went to, Caden and I and my nephew, and they were sitting up there. They had lit their barbecue grill, and they started cooking, and man, I'm telling you, that curry and all the other stuff just made my hamburgers taste like crap, because I wanted whatever they were eating, because it was some fine cooking up there. But they had their firewood kind of just like thrown down. And this is dry poplar that has been dried for probably 5 years. I mean, I was flaking dust off of some of it, because they wouldn't let you bring your own firewood. And that man sat over there, I know, for 40 minutes. He used every beer box that he had over there. He used every paper towel napkin that he had. Everything you could imagine over there. Didn't have an axe, didn't have a knife with him. And finally, I guess it was his girlfriend or wife or something. She walked over there because we got our fire going, and we're just sitting there. And I'm laughing inside, but really I wanted to go over there and help him. But sometimes we as guys be like, no, get out of here. I got this. But she came over and asked me if I could help them. So I walked over, and these 2 guys are cool about it. They said, dude, we ain't never made a fire a day in our life. And I'm like, thank God you're in a campground. And I said, the first thing is, if you got a problem. He goes, what's that? I said, and he was over there spraying lighter fluid, on it. I said, you don't have small enough kindling to get the fire to go on, but I'm going to show you a trick since you got some. I knocked his wood down, put him a chunk of coals, his charcoal, built him a little old platform pyramid about this big, I guess. I squirted his lighter fluid on it and lit it, and I said, let's lay your wood back over the top. And they were blazing over there in the next 15 minutes. Well, the next morning he came over and gave me the rest of his charcoal and said, I'll pay you for that fire. And I was like, dude, you just pay me by going watch some videos how to do this. I mean, I could have said and broke it down and taught him the whole thing, but Caden and them was still sitting. I mean, we wasn't 30 feet away. That was a great time when we went. Loved the place. To spend time with Caden, but it was not my cup of tea. I mean, I like the shower part. You go up there and take a shower, and you got to go take a dump or whatever. And the cool beans, I got 2 bathrooms that's got running water in them. That was cool. But other than that, it was sleeping in a tent on the ground in the backyard.
Yeah, I don't like all the state camping parks and all that kind of stuff. They're good, though. They're good for family outings and stuff like that, because if my sister and niece come here and want to go camping with me, they're sure not going to want to go where I go out here, to the woods, going through the sticker briars, getting ate up by chiggers and ticks. So, yeah, state campgrounds are great for, families that want to go camping together that don't want to go way out in the woods and all that stuff. But me, myself, my personal preference is I don't want to be ruled by nobody when I'm camping. I don't want to have to look at a list of rules and say, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do that? I go out there to my woods and I'm the law.
Get back over here to my
Skywarp. Hey, man, welcome. Cole Craven's got to go. Take care, Cole Craven. Thanks for showing up. I guess Willie's going too. Yeah. Take care, Willie.
everybody, I tell you what, I don't like Internet Explorer, and I opened it up by accident and knocked open the thing, and I am way off on these comments.
It's mainly just everybody chatting back and forth. Tim did answer you about the water chemical. He was saying charcoal is supposed to be the best way to get rid of chemicals.
It filters it through with it.
Yeah. Do you got your picture turned on, or is it just doing that automatically? Your picture, your logo, did you click on that to click on your camera, or is that doing that automatically?
What, the logo?
Yeah.
It pops up automatically. It's because I set it up on my Google.
I mean, we're not seeing you, we're seeing your logo.
I'm seeing me.
Oh, I'm seeing your logo, not you.
Are you seeing me now?
Nope. Still logo.
Are you seeing me now?
Nope. Still logo. Now there you are. There's that.
I don't know.
Boy.
It keeps bouncing back and forth. I mean, that was pretty much everything that I had. The other thing is we've seen these, and you can see mine's worn out. I don't remember when I bought this. I think you bought the bigger one, right?
Yeah, I got the big one.
This one here is just the little pocket size. I carry this thing all the time with me. One, for reading. Two is it occupies my time, and there's a tremendous amount of little stuff that's inside of it. I don't know how much this thing was. $7.95, so it may be $10 now with time.
I want one.
Is how it's went. It may even be, but it's just got, you know, little cool things. I mean, if you don't know how to build a shelter, don't know how. The one thing that kind of got me though was some of the ways of purifying water is what they speak of now not doing, you know. But then it does have the right, or not really the right, but it does say it is best to boil water as well on this one here. That was a shelter thing. But
that's something too, where books can be deceiving. That's another point that I'd like to make. Is when I was out there doing my survival challenge, and I was real hungry. I knew, or I remembered that I read in that book, the SAS book, that you could eat any mushrooms that's on trees, no matter what. If it's on a tree, it's safe. Okay, so I went with that, and I ate mushrooms that were at the bottom of the tree, the middle of the tree, all over the tree, trees that were laying on the ground. I was eating the mushrooms, and I survived, didn't get sick or nothing. But later on, after people were commenting on that, they sent me to a video of John Lofty Wiseman, the exact same guy that wrote that book. But in the video, he was saying, you can eat any mushrooms on trees as long as it's above the waistline. In the book, he didn't say that. So, see, I could have got really messed up by eating all the mushrooms below the waistline because he didn't specify that in the book. And then I don't know how true it is, but I was talking to Roosevelt from My Wilderness, and he said that's not true. He said it's unlikely that you'll get a poison mushroom. He said, but there are poison mushrooms on trees. So I don't know what to believe now.
I guess that's what makes everything the way it is we all enjoy our channels. I mean, we all learn. We love to express ourselves. We like to show other things. I don't know that there's anybody that is foolproof on what they teach. You know, I mean, there's so many mistakes that can be made. I see several times, you know, and I have to eat my words as well. You know, I mean, there's times like, whoa, back up. I found something out that I didn't know, you know, because, and when we find something interesting, you know, then, you know, being, you know, on YouTube, you find something cool and you want to share it, you know, you whip out a video and go at it, you know, and then all of a sudden I've taken down several of them, like, whoa, wait a minute, this is not good, you know, it's not what I thought it was. I guess, as a lot of us have said, you know, the rule of thumb and stuff is try it before you just have to need it, you know. Test everything out. It's kind of like with those 5 things. It's just 5 little things, you know. Know how to live without your stuff. I mean, I guess that's, or not really live, but how to sustain yourself is, it would help you out tremendously. But on this thing here, My wife told me this, and I've done it before. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a lot of it in there because I probably put a little too much water with it. This is dyed, and with that being dyed, and you've got a puncture wound or you've got a gash or a cut, you're just sitting there putting that dye right into your body. And she said some of those dyes are bad for you. She said she learned this in one of her things. Wash it, and wash it, and then put it in your pack. But I don't know if you guys can really see it, but there's just a slight tint of green down through there. But if you use a red one or a blue one, I did it the other day, that whole water bowl will be just completely red or blue. And she said then, because we were talking about it, and apparently one of the classes that she had to go into, they automatically, if somebody comes in with a handkerchief wrapped around their arm and tied in, the first thing they ask them or they check to look for is, did it have dye in it? Because apparently some of those dyes are bad for you. They can cause staph infections, other things like that. So she said, yeah, if you want to use a bandana and keep it in there, that's great and everything, she said. But so is carrying a first aid kit with the proper bandages inside of it. But that one didn't turn out as well. But I'll do you a video of a red one where they're just fresh, straight out of it, and you'll see how much dye is in it. But I mean, I can see it in here. The light doesn't do much justice, but it's just a light gray or a green film over the top of it. But that was pretty much everything that was with it. She don't care too much for YouTube, but she said, y'all guys have got to learn this stuff, and you got to quit teaching stuff that's not correct.
That's a good point, though. I certainly never knew that about the dye.
I mean, and that's why, you know, they say use a white cloth most of the time, because it's bleached, you know, and it's cotton. There's no dye in it. There's none of that other stuff. So I'll pick her brain whenever I'm available to. Most of the time she tells me to get the H, you know, out of there and don't mess with me if you're going to put it on YouTube. I don't want to hear it. She says YouTube is the devil. I said, do what? And she said, yeah, I don't have you or Caden now. Both of you are on YouTube. I said, well, so we lost you when TV came out. But, I mean, that was pretty much everything that I had, I mean, for tonight. You know, I've got a few videos that I'm going to do on some of those, and I'll do one of those that shows it a little bit better, but it kind of got the point out. You know, wash it 2 or 3 times, and as she said, if you just, she says a lot of times we become commando of the woods, is what she called me. She said, you got to have the camouflage, you got to have this, you got to have that. She said, if you're just in dire need and you don't want to watch the thing that many times and make sure it's right, go buy the white handkerchief. She said, they make a bandana handkerchief like thing. She said, just carry it in your packet. That's all it is. And I said, well, they don't make good do-rags. So
we need to make a our wives' greatest hits album.
Yeah.
And my favorite one from yours is "I'm not going to mess with your little gay show," or "I'm not going to interrupt your little gay show."
That's what she's. What was it? About 2 weeks ago, we were talking about it. She goes, "Oh, don't worry, I'm not going to interrupt your little gay show." Okay. You just step on off in there into your room. I'll stay on this end of the house.
Speaking of,
have any comments or anything?
Yeah, they're basically talking between each other. Speaking of that CPR, I'll give you all an example on where it's good to know that, which it's good to know it anyways. But when I went to Georgia this past year to visit my family, we were sitting in a restaurant up at a bar eating, and there's a lady and man next to us. Well, the man got choked who was next to us. And me and my brother were sitting there watching. I mean, the man got bad choked. It lunged something right in his throat where he couldn't breathe. And his wife or girlfriend or whatever she was trying to do the Heimlich maneuver. I guess that's what you call it. And she couldn't do it. She kept doing that, and the guy was dying. The guy couldn't breathe. He was like, and he looked over at my brother, and he said, "Help me!" And my brother jumped up and got him and popped it right out. But my brother knew what he was doing. If that guy would have said that to me, I'd been like, well, "What do you want me to do?" You know, and
Alan
so,
would have been over there dropping an elbow in his chest.
but yeah, it's
They,
really good to know that stuff. And that's even like not in a wood situation. That's sitting there eating and the guy next to you gets dying. You just saved his life, you know?
I noticed Marty was in here, or Mark, Manland. I tried the Bama grape spice thing. I loved it. The wife took a bite. She didn't care nothing for it. So I think it's just me. She just doesn't like me. But it's like it's a dip, I guess is what he called it. You just melt some grape jelly down and put some crushed red peppers, and I actually put minced onions inside of it with some chili powder, a little bit of it. My mother-in-law and father-in-law thought it was the best rib they've ever had. And my wife, she said, I just don't like grape jelly. You should have tried it with maybe strawberries or something. I was like, okay.
Mike Landreth, I don't know why it's doing that. I'm seeing me, but I guess you're not, so I don't know. He's saying that he's only seeing you, not me. That's okay, though. I didn't comb my hair tonight, so you're not missing nothing.
Well, it should be able to flip over, shouldn't it? It's flipping back and forth for me and you.
Yeah, I haven't had a problem seeing me all night, but Mike's saying, why are your pictures showing on my end? It is just Mike all the time. So I guess he's saying my picture ain't showing, it's just showing you all the time. So
I'm not in me on it right now.
I'm looking at your froze. It's a picture of you not moving.
That's what it's saying for me. It's going back and forth. I'm going to clear out Windows Explorer. You'll just have to read me anything that comes on. I think that's what's causing it.
Yeah. Trying to keep up with the comments. Oh, somebody did ask too about the Maya dust. Can Maya dust be off of another, I forget how he worded it, but can it be dust off of anything instead of just pine? That I do not know. As a matter of fact, recently I just found out a few months ago that the dust from the fat wood is called Maya dust. I never had any idea of that, so I don't know. Mike, do you know anything about that? Is Maya dust off of any wood that you get, or does it have to be something with resin or just pine?
I think it would be something with resin, but I mean, to me, I don't know where the term came from. Just like fat wood, I never heard of fat wood till I got to YouTube. I mean, it's pine knots, pine. You know, I don't know if that's just something that's a new term or something. But I mean, I know what it is, but I would think that it would need to be something with all of it. I mean, something with some resin inside of it. But maybe one of the viewers here that are more familiar. I mean, I know how to make it. I know what I need to do to make a fire. So I don't know if it's the same.
There's somebody else saying they only see you, but then there's somebody else that says they see both. Delaware. Somebody says because you're talking more. Tim says.
Generally, it goes by the volume up and down of who's doing the talking.
Yeah.
There should be a thing to switch, make sure.
I have not heard of fat wood either. Of course, I am a new guy here. Are you saying you've never heard of fat wood as fat wood, or you never heard of the Maya dust being off of fat wood? I'm not sure what you're saying. For anybody who don't know, fat wood is basically a resin piece of wood that's dead and full of resin, mainly pine, but you can also get it off of cedar too.
I heard a guy say one time it's fossilized wood, preserved.
Yeah.
I see a lot of different folks on here tonight than we normally see.
Yeah. And fat wood
did you get your Stanley Cup yet? I called your number the other day and I didn't get an answer. I don't know if I called the house or if I called the cell.
Who is that?
Holy Prepper, Asha.
Oh. For anybody who don't know too, fat wood has several different names or a few different names. You might know it as lighter wood, fat wood. What's another name for it, Mike?
Pine knots.
Pine knots, fire starter. I don't know. But growing up, we learned it as a lighter wood, like
Right.
lighting a lighter. But I've always heard it being called fat wood too.
See, I've never heard it called fat wood until 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
My daddy right now, he'd call us all idiots. Because when he said, we're going to need some pine knots, you boys need to go get a barrel full of it, we knew exactly what he was saying. If I said, Daddy, we're going to get some fat wood, I'll bust you in the head. I got plenty of wood out here. I want some pine knots.
Well, I've got to go out my shop and work at 11 o'clock.
Well, it is 11 o'clock.
It is on my computer.
That's what it says. It's actually 11:01.
Well, I'm going to jump out, guys. Too much internet problems tonight. All right, Mike, take care, man. We're about to sign off anyway.
I've got a new sheath that I'm making before we jump off of here. It's if it turns out well, you guys will see the video. If it does not, you'll see a different video. What I did was I took a Altoid stand, and it'll lay in this way here, and then on top of that Altoid stand where it comes across, I've wet molded it, and my Leatherman wave will go over the top of it, and then a fire striker, the parasail rod will be on this side, and on this side here I've got it attached, or I'll have it attached for my famous little Sodbuster Junior that'll slide in, that's wet formed as well, and then it's got a flap that comes over and covers all of it. If it turns out that way. If it doesn't, you'll see something different.
Good night, Ollie.
Good night, Tasha.
What I got coming up next week or this week, I'm going to try to go camping. The only thing that might stop that from happening is if I get another order in between now and when I leave, or the bad weather. But I think we got pretty weather for all the rest of this week, so I'll be camping this week. Don't know for how long. Going to be working on doing some more wild edible videos for sure. I've just been real busy here for the last week. Mike, what do you got coming up?
Everything that I just talked about. I'm going to do I guess 5 things to know, but I'm going to actually make a video with it. Some orienteering, how to use a compass, what kind of compass, or what are good compasses, what are a bad compass, and what will get you in a general direction. Also, the water thing where I was talking about putting it in a stream and then showing you the sediment and stuff, even though it's coming right straight out of, we've got a nice spring, and the guy at the like a Triangle Hardware thing, he tests his pool water. He also tests his water for well water, and he can tell you what, you know, germs and this and that in it. And I asked him about it. He said, you bring me some water, and he said, I'll test it for you, and I'll tell you what it's got and what it doesn't have, you know, and if it's potable or non. Huh. And he said, I can't tell you all the other stuff, you know, the micro, you know, stuff like that. He said, but I can tell you whether or not it would be safe according to standards, and I'll tell you if it's safe according to non-standards, but still safe.
Right. And on the water subject, you should learn ways to make water too. And there's a few different ways, and learn the vines to get water out of and all that stuff. This kind of thing is like very, very, very serious to know, and should be put on your highest priority list for what to learn to survive, because water is going to be your main thing you need. And if you can't purify it or don't have no way to purify it, and there ain't no clean water around, then you can make some. And I know in my area, when y'all saw me do that survival challenge, I did cut some vines and got water out of them, but those vines wasn't putting out enough water for me to really survive off of, or to even quench my thirst. It was like a drop every 10 to 20 minutes or so. But
I mean, there's certain plants that you can get. That was some of the other stuff that I've been reading up on, finding areas that works here may not work in another area, you know.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things that I'm going to start putting with my videos when I do them. This is for this area.
Yeah. And pretty much no matter what area you're in, there's several or a few different ways you can make water. One, tying a bag around a branch that's got leaves on it. Just tie a bag around it, and the dew stuff, humidity or whatever, will create water. Do the same thing. You've probably seen Les Stroud do it before, where you dig a hole in the ground and put a cup down there in the bottom and put a piece of plastic over the top and a rock that kind of weighs the bag down right over that cup, and that'll make
Funnel
water.
it in.
And that'll make water, but you can make more water by sticking greens in that same hole. You just go get some fresh greens and stick around your cup, and that'll make more water. But I'll probably show some of this stuff in other videos. When I get out there, I don't know, I kind of slip off into my own little world and kind of forget everything I want to show y'all. Plus, I'm lazy too. But all right, Mike, I'm done whenever you are.
Well, Tim, he sent me something over here, and it makes good sense. He sent me a text message just now on it. Charcoal being the best way to clean chemicals out, but reverse osmosis is the best surefire way to boil water into steam, then recondense it into or back into water. Pain to carry, and many still with you. I posted it twice, but Alan never read it.
I read
See there,
it.
Alan? See, I make you a co-host on my show, and you mess it up. But when I'm on yours, I'll let you know everything.
Well,
last thing on it.
I couldn't pronounce that word, osmosis. I couldn't pronounce that, so I didn't read it.
Oh, well. I'll forgive you. Just this once, though. That book there, if anybody's just really wanting to learn how to use a map, this book here, God, I've had it 10 years at least. It's how I really learned how to read and understand a map. And the thing was $30, but they make a smaller condensed version now of it. It's about $15-16, but it's how to be an expert with a map and compass. Out of all of them that I sat in Barnes and Noble and read through, this one gave you the best details and knocked out all that unnecessary reading of that you didn't need to know about, and advertisements, like Kaminga, best one, and then it tells you it's like a whole chapter on Kaminga, which I know is a very good compass, but it's not worth a whole chapter.
Well,
but that is everything that I have. I enjoyed it. It's been very entertaining.
Hope everybody had a great weekend. 3-day weekend.
That's another subject. I was amazed just flipping. This is totally off of the bushcraft survival thing for just a second. I was amazed at how many people that had no clue the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. It blew me away. The two differences are just so huge. But most of us know it, and I know so because I informed you.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of people, I guess what got me was a gentleman came into the store, and he says, every Memorial Day, nobody says anything about my 5 years that I served. And later on that afternoon, after asking around, I found out he never served. And I kind of figured that whenever he didn't know the difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. So it let me know that that's one thing that's instilled into him. But that's a different subject altogether. I won't bore nobody with it.
All right. Well, we will see y'all next week. Next Monday it'll be on my channel, and
you're going to talk all the way through it
like I normally do. If you got any requests you want us to talk about or something you want us to look up and do research on or whatever, let us know, as long as it's bushcraft and survival. Oh, and I enjoyed it.
Well, I appreciate everybody that stopped in tonight, and I wished I'd opened up my window first before I opened up Google or YouTube, so I didn't get to read all the chat and comments, but I'm going to go back and reread them and see if there's anything that I missed. When I close it out, it'll still be up for a little bit for me to be able to read them. Thanks, everybody, for watching, and we'll catch you next week on Freedom Bushcraft. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to clear out.